Good morning, gamers. Welcome back to another episode of Getting Baked, the official baked goods podcast. I hope you're all sitting back with your eggnog spiked with Powerade, lemon lime flavor, of course, because we have a very festive holiday treat, and then I realized absolutely nothing about this podcast makes it any more festive than any other podcast I've ever done. So let's just jump right into our topic today, which will be the Jackbox Party Pack 4. Before we begin, let's set the stage. The year is 2017. A few years prior, Jackbox Games releases the Jackbox Party Pack 1, and then subsequently 2. Both of these party packs are nothing special. I'll make a video on them later, but they revolutionized the way we look at party games. Then, 2016, they released Jackbox Party Pack 3. As you can tell from my previous podcast about Jackbox, it's a massive success. They released 4 out of 5 games that are just complete bangers. They're so fun to play. They have all the momentum going into this year, and they have to release something that will continuously push them and propel them further into the electronic party game industry. Enter Jackbox Party Pack 4. They needed something special here to continue the upward trend that Jackbox Party Pack 3 gave them. And spoiler alert, it doesn't happen. I will talk about why this party pack is kind of a dud compared to the amazing ones we've had recently. And so let's just begin by talking about some of the games contained. First game we have is Fibbage 3. Fibbage is a game where obviously fibbing is to lie. So it's all about lying, fibbage, if you will. A nice play on words there. How it works is the game will present a statement or fact with a blank at the end. George Washington's teeth were made out of blank. And then everyone will come up with a lie on their device that they think other people would vote for. So for example, I could say bone, or paper, or cotton, or ivory, or tree bark, or something along that line that I think other people would pick. Attention all people who think George Washington's teeth were made out of wood. Wikipedia would suggest otherwise. Do not leave angry comments on this video. Thank you. So then, after everyone answers, all the lies are put together, and one of the answers is the actual truth to that fact. And then everyone will vote, and they'll try to pick which one is the actual truth. And you get points if people pick your answer, which is a lie that you made up. So it's an interesting concept. I find that in practice, it's just kind of a meh trivia-ish game that I get more enjoyment when I play Trivia Murder Party out of. It feels kind of the same niche as that. So this is just kind of like a slightly inferior version for me. But Fibbage 3 actually has 2 game modes. It has normal Fibbage, but then it has Fibbage Enough About You. And Fibbage Enough About You is where I think this game really shines. Enough About You, instead of just having lies about unrelated worldly facts like George Washington's teeth, Enough About You has the players writing truths and lies about themselves and the other players. So obviously, this is much more interactive than George Washington. So it's much more interesting and engaging, from my opinion. And I think you learn a lot about the other people you're playing this game with. So if you're playing it with friends, the gameplay is heightened by that. So Fibbage 3 is just an okay trivia game. It's good. It's decent. It's not bad. Fibbage Enough About You is really the meat of this game, whereas Fibbage 3 is kind of the potatoes. And it should be the other way around, but in practice, Enough About You is just a much better game to play with friends. The next game we have is Survive the Internet. This is also like a meh version of Quiplash. You'll find a lot of the games from this party pack are kind of just meh versions of other games. I know I don't really like to give my opinion at the beginning, but I feel like they really shit the bed on this one, so it's kind of hard to keep my bias out of this. But anyways, it's set in the old era of AOL, and you are basically twisting each other's words to make it look like dumb social media posts. So one person will get a prompt, and they'll have to respond to the prompt. And like the prompt is how they would respond to the headline of a news story or something. So they'll write a response that's like they're commenting on a Facebook post or something. And then you will get someone else's response, and you'll write a headline that makes them look foolish. Now, if all that sounds complicated, it's because it is. This game is kind of hard to understand, so it can seem a little frustrating until everyone knows how the game works. And then once you understand it, it gets a little easier to write things, but it's still very hard because you have to actually be funny. You have to find a way to make a joke. It's not like Quiplash where you can kind of get away with just writing random words and having people vote for you. You have to be deliberate in this game, and that can be kind of hard for some people. Also, it can be difficult based on the other person's response that you get. If their response is too broad or too specific, it can really mess up what you can do with it and thus limit your ability to be funny. The next game is Monster Seeking Monster. In this game, it's like a dating simulator. Everyone is chatting with other players and trying to get them to match with them. And if you match with another player at the end of each round, you go on a date and get a heart, which is like a point, essentially. The twist is everyone is secretly a monster from a classical movie. So someone could be a witch, a zombie, a vampire, a blob, a ventriloquist puppet, a werewolf. You get the idea. And every monster has a special ability that will let them get hearts more easily, or it'll trigger at some point during the game, and it affects their ability to interact with other people. So for example, some of the monster powers are the werewolf gets double the points if he dates someone on a full moon. There's a body swapper who, if he dates someone on a full moon, will actually switch points with them. The invisible man starts the game with extra hearts and always looks like he's in last place, despite how many points he may have. There's a monster hunter who gets points based on if he can hunt down a specific monster type and date them repeatedly. So you get the idea. There's a wide array of unique powers that make each monster interesting to play as. This is unlike anything Jackbox has done before, and I find it really interesting. Of course, in a dating simulator where you get to text your friends, a lot of times you're just spewing obscenities at each other. And it's really fun when you don't know who you're talking to, which also makes it a very dangerous game to play with your parents, so just keep that in mind. But this is like a hidden role game with a dating twist, which is really interesting. And because of all the special monsters and powers, it really gets better the more you play it, the more you understand how different monsters work, and you start thinking about what other people might be trying to do when they're trying to date you. So it's a fun dating simulator, but if you go above that, there's so much depth to this game that I think whether you're taking it seriously or just trying to have a good time, I think it works for a lot of different people. I think this is definitely the strongest game in this party pack and one of the best Jackbox games that they've ever released. The next game is called Bracketeering, and this is another game where it's just kind of like Quiplash, except Quiplash is much, much better than this game. How this works is you'll get a prompt and you'll write a response, but instead of being pitted against only one person, you're pitted in a bracket style of competition. So your answer will be paired up with, I think the first round is 4 other answers, and then if it wins, it'll get paired up against another answer, and then if it wins, it'll get paired up against another answer for the final round. So there's like 3 stages of the bracket. They have 3 rounds in this game. The first round is just a normal bracket. The second round, the prompt changes after everyone puts in their response, which can make some really funny answers and can really change how the answers are looked at and judged. In the third round, the prompt changes for every stage of the bracket. So the prompt will change 3 times, which can lead to some very different interpretations of your submission based on the stage of the game. The problem with this game is that the third round is so much more entertaining than the first 2 rounds. I wish it was just the third round 3 times. The first round is really boring compared to the second, and then especially compared to the third round. So the game feels like a drawn out, stale bracket, which would be much more interesting if it was only the third round. Another problem is the way voting works is you can change your answer and the voting only stops when people stop voting. So what you can do is you can just quickly tap back and forth between the answers, and when everyone does this, there's just a lot of going back and forth on the screen because it plays out in real time. So the focus of this game tends to be less on the actual answers and more on just making that your answer or your vote change on the screen back and forth. And there's like a slapping sound when that happens, so it just sounds like a bunch of slapping in a row. So in summary, this game is too long. The first 2 rounds are not very entertaining compared to the third round, and it's very finicky. The only merit this game has is you can play it with 16 players, which is double the amount you can play in Quiplash, which is only 8. But still, I think in the end, I would almost rather just play Quiplash and have some people be in the audience if we had more than 8 than play this game, which is just a subpar version of Quiplash. And the last game from this party pack is Civic Doodle. Now, this is a drawing game, so right off the bat, some people who are not good at drawing or don't like drawing will have a bad experience with this game. But I'll talk about what it is first. So how it works is instead of everyone drawing something, 2 people will draw something at the same time, and it'll play out in real time on the screen, so you can see what they're drawing as they're drawing it, and that's pretty cool to watch. Then everyone will vote on which person's drawing they like better, and then in the next drawing section, the 2 people drawing will use that person's drawing as the base for their drawing. So essentially, people are just piling their drawings on top of each other. Now, in theory, this is a good idea, but in practice, it doesn't really work because people can draw for too long of an amount of time. So they can add a lot to the drawing in the allotted time they have, which means that by the time it's the third or fourth person's turn to add to the drawing, there's not enough space or room for them to add anything. So you're just coloring over what other people have already drawn on, which can make it a very chaotic and kind of not that great of an experience, which kind of leaving a little bit to be desired just because the concept is really good, but the execution just doesn't work as well as it was intended to work. So in conclusion, I just want to mention a few things before I talk about the overall party pack experience. I am very critical of these games because I care a lot about them. I'm very passionate about Jackbox games. They are the most fun I've ever had with a group of friends all sitting around on our phones looking at a TV. And so when I talk about these games and I'm very hard and critical about them, it's coming from a place of love. I want to mention that all of these games are super, super creative. They all have very unique ideas going for them, and each game, for the most part, does feel different than other games they've made. The soundtracks for every single game they've ever made is just phenomenal. The music is amazing. The atmosphere they create is really great. And the production value of all the games is top notch. It's really superb. So when I say that Jackbox Party Pack 4 shit the bed, I don't mean it's a bad party pack. It is good. You will have fun playing this. What I mean is, relative to the other party packs, it is not as strong. So with all that being said, let's talk about Party Pack 4 as a whole, which, if you can't already tell, I definitely don't think this is as superb as Party Pack 3, but I definitely think there are some gems in here. Speaking of gems, we have Monster Seeking Monster, which is a very unique and different game than anything else Jackbox has released. I think you will have a very interesting experience every time you play it, and it's really fun to just sit around with a group of your friends. You all have weird usernames and you don't know who you're texting, and you just say, "Wanna smash?" and then you see how they respond. It's really fun. I don't think it's the best, though, just because you can only play with 7 people and not 8. And also, some people don't like that. They would rather play a game like Trivia Murder Party where you don't have to try to deceive others. But I still think it's a very good game. Fibbage 3 is carried by Enough About You, which I think is much better to play than just Fibbage. You learn a lot about the people you're playing with, and you tend to enjoy it more because it's more relatable. Bracketeering and Survive the Internet kind of have their issues, but overall, if you just take a step back and stop thinking about Quiplash 2 existing, you will enjoy them once you settle into their specific niche and just try to play the game how it is. You'll enjoy it. And Civic Doodle is, again, like that. If you don't just scribble all over the screen and try to cover up what people draw, you will have a fun time. However, it's just not that good of a drawing game as something like TKO is, or Patently Stupid is, for example. So with all that being said, that is what I think about Jackbox Party Pack 4. I have a few announcements for my channel. My Quesadilla podcast follow-up video has been delayed since over break. My mother did not like the fact that I was going to spend an entire day making quesadillas, and she wanted me to be a little bit more productive. So over winter break, when I have like 5 weeks off of school, I will just grind out quesadillas for one day. I was also sick for like the entire month of November, which also didn't help. Quesadillas aren't really the best flu medicine if you've ever been sick ever. Tortillas and cheese are not as good as Mucinex, for example. And then finally, I am looking into getting I'm looking into getting baked good merch. I hired a merch coordinator, and you can see a mock-up of a sweatshirt she came up with on the right. I will order like 50 sweatshirts, all for me, if that's what it takes. But if you would be interested in getting merch, leave a comment down below or something like that. Direct message me. I want to see how many people are interested so I can gauge how large this target audience is, if you know what I mean. And that's the end of my video. Thank you for watching or listening, however you consume my podcast. I appreciate it either way. I will come out with the video for Jackbox Party Pack 5 hopefully later this week. I have a final tomorrow, but after that I should be in the clear to just fuck around in iMovie for a while. So yeah, look forward to that. I love Jackbox. I love all party packs, except maybe not equally. Just, it's so hard to match the greatness of Jackbox Party Pack 3, and sometimes I'm a little cruel to Jackbox Party Pack 4. It does have its strengths, but 3 is just the golden child that none of the other party packs will ever be able to compete with. Thank you for watching. Peace.